Blinking light is on. You can go. Good evening. Welcome to our Thursday, March 7th, 2024 regular school board meeting. It is 6:32. We will begin with the introduction of board members, beginning over here to my left.
I'm Jim Lothridge.
Diane Potter,
Molly Rogers,
Cora Henderson,
Alyssa Tracy,
Becky Fless,
Tony Veet.
Jack Pitteroff.
Megan Carlson,
Joanne O'Brien.
Matt Lillibridge.
administrative staff, please.
Pat Hopkins, superintendent,
Andrea Dish, business manager,
Nate Stubbert, athletic director.
Angela Hardy, Director of Curriculum.
Lauren Arnold, principal of Gardner Hackett.
Sarah Sims, principal at Gardner Regional Middle School.
Katie Gould, Principal at Helen Thompson School.
Karen Moody, principal of Laura Richard School.
Vicky Duguay, Principal at Riverview Community School. Stephanie Cockrell, Principal at Easton Randolph Consolidated School. Carrie McGuire, Director of Technology. Alicia
Hey.
Morris, Director of Special Services.
And last but not least,
Sorry, I'm a
No.
couple minutes late.
No.
Dave Doxby, Director of Operations.
no apologies. You're probably the busiest guy out there. Both ends in the middle. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of
the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is there anyone from the public that is here to make a comment? If not, we can forego the pre-comment statement. So thank you for not wanting to go. Let's see, review and approval of agenda minutes, prioritization of items and alteration of the established agenda format sequence as needed.
I do not have anything in addition to the revised agenda that was released yesterday.
Okay. A motion to accept the amended, okay. Second by Jim. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. Approval of minutes of previous meetings, regular board meeting February 1st, 2024, and the special board meeting workshop on February 10th.
So moved.
Moved by Tony. Second by Jack. Questions or comments about that? All those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. Recognition and celebration.
I feel like there should be Jeopardy music or something.
This is my last meeting. I wanted to say something. I have thoroughly, this is the most rewarding job I've ever had in my life. And sometimes it's the biggest pain in the ass. I'm sorry, folks, but it is wonderful. And I appreciate every minute of it. I do want to thank my wife. She came here tonight to say goodbye. Maybe to me, I don't know. But my daughter and my granddaughters, we've got 3 generations of girls in my family, so nobody else better call them girls.
There you go.
But anyways, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Good luck to everybody. This is a great group to work with, so thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I get to say something. You don't get the last word. I remember the very first phone call that I had with Jim. And I will never forget what brought him to us. And I don't think any of us will ever forget what brought Jim to us. And the heart and the compassion that urged him relentlessly to be here and to make a difference. And I don't know, I don't know if that ever would have transpired, but to learn to know you and to spend as much time as you and I have spent together, I would not trade for anything in the world. You have become one of my cherished friends. We've had endless cups of coffee together. We have battled about things that we agreed about and didn't agree about and worked toward coming to a common area. And I think like 99% of the time we do. And if not, we agree to the impasse. And I so appreciate that about you. There's not a lot of people that you can have that kind of respect and regard with in your life. It's kind of rare, especially in such divided times. And you were not a man of division, you were a man of together and family. And that's been very clear from the very beginning. And so for that, I have grown and I'm so grateful and I'm so happy that you've had the impact you've had on the board. And I will miss you and I will never lose your number.
Thank you.
I know how to find you. And so to say thank you, I do have a little something. How can I get to him?
I know, right?
Sorry.
We'll make it happen.
Make an airplane?
Yeah.
For you to do with as you wish. And I will miss you. So, okay, love you bunches.
Thank you very, very much.
Oh, sorry.
All righty. Thank you, Jim. Okay, correspondence,
As written.
perfect. Committee reports, Capital Area Technical Center.
We met on the 5th. Kept thinking we had one this week or last week. Anyways, we didn't. I double checked my email 3 times. And, but anyways, we met. The calendar has not been finalized, has it yet, Pat?
You will finalize it tonight, hopefully.
It's on there.
Okay, super. No, because I know we had not at the time we met, it was still up in the air a bit.
Yep.
Okay, and then I can't think of the instructor that met with us and talked a little about his program. What was? I don't remember what program it was even. Anyways, they're great. Oh, it's the new instructor. He just came on from the
Electrical.
Electrical,
right?
that's right, yes. And he's trying to get the electrical program back up to numbers. They didn't have an instructor for what's
A few weeks.
several weeks at the beginning, and from what everybody says, he's top notch and he speaks very well. And I think he'd be a real asset to the program there, so that's about it. If we've got that calendar, that's gonna be good.
Yeah, the next meeting is April. So we will need a board member
Yeah,
to replace Jim. The meetings are at Capital Area Tech, about 1 o'clock, usually on a Monday afternoon.
great lunches.
So that doesn't work for everyone. And yes, we usually get a lunch.
If you feed them, they will come.
Yeah.
Yes.
Seems to be the way. So I would request that all of you consider lunch and an opportunity to serve in one more capacity. Because I'll be asking. Let's see, curriculum.
I feel prepared. We'll see. Okay, so we actually met on February 13th. Our next meeting is next Tuesday. We talked about the literacy grant and its update. Had some reporting. I'm sure Angela's been furiously doing. That was just due. We talked through the curriculum budget, very detailed, not very different from previous years and available in the minutes. We talked through some changes to the IKF edits, which are going to the policy committee around math and grade ranges for credit recovery. And then we made a motion to accept that. And so you'll see that in your packets as well. And then we just talked about achievement data mid-year. Angela always knows I like to look at data. So we looked at some data and talked through that. And that was it. And then we had some attachments you can look at as well with the data and so forth.
Excellent. Finance Committee, I was not present, sadly. Let's see, we talked about the community funding project, and there's a letter that has been prepared that we'll be sending to businesses to request their input as we work on this project together.
It requires school board approval.
Yes, and we have to approve that. Yes. Are we ready to do that tonight?
My hope is that you are all going to be ready. So the recommendation is from the finance committee that the
To
board-
the full board to recommend this community funding project, and it's a process whereby we will get money. But there's a matching portion that it's 25%.
It's an application, so there's no
Thank you.
guarantee that
Yes,
you'll get
thank
any
you.
money.
Right.
But it's an application to our congressional leaders.
Oh,
They
that's
have
right.
some earmarked funds
Yeah.
that are available
Mhm.
in the spring, the application often becomes available. We are expecting it sometime in early to mid spring, so anytime soon. And they look at community projects, things in which the community would benefit from. So with what the proposal that finance has talked about is to have all of the school parking lots fixed and repaved, to repurpose the track and to upgrade the field house bathrooms. The estimated cost is $2.6 million. And in order to be eligible, you need to be willing to put in upwards of 20%. It could be less than that, but you need to be prepared to make a 20% commitment in some fashion. If approved, if we submit it and are approved, then you're gonna have to wait to find out if it actually gets funded. So it could be, even if it's approved this year, it could be a couple of years out before you get any actual funding. But it requires board approval.
Make a motion, we do that.
Oh, just a second.
Okay.
Just to clarify, you said upwards of 20%. You meant up to?
Up to
20%?
20%, a maximum of 20%.
Cool. That's pretty standard. Yeah. I'm making my motion that we do that.
All right. And Molly is seconding it, and
As
so now is the
described.
time when I want to understand if people have questions. And I apologize for not being able, I read it, but
No,
not
but
to
that's
be able
okay.
to
It's
articulate
It's
it
a
all.
lot, and we've been in
Yeah.
meetings, we've met with a representative from Representative Golden's office, and so, yeah, we've worked with it quite a bit, so it's a little confusing.
It's a little, it's okay.
And we are required to, you mentioned the letters, we're required to demonstrate community support. And if you approve it, then the next step is to reach out to organizations, municipalities, those who use our facilities, to ask them to write letters of support, that they would support us doing this. And of course, you know, we are talking about a $500,000 commitment, the 20%.
Mhm.
But we could save taxpayers close to $2 million by using this, if it's funded, if it's approved. Jim,
To say, what if we have to repave a parking lot because it's just impassable?
I think we're past that
I
point.
think we have to
now.
It is pretty accessible now. We've sort of had it on our to-do list, and we've been talking about bonding it along with some other things, but it's just never the right time to bond it. So if this, maybe this is like our rainbow. It's just dropped here, and this is our opportunity.
So-
And maybe we'll be fortunate.
can I say one more thing, Jim?
Absolutely.
So finance has been talking about lots of things.
Mhm.
One, you mentioned bonding. Prior to COVID, the finance committee were seriously investigating and entertaining bonding. Jim was proposing that, bringing that forward. COVID hit, it went on the back burner. Now we are also in the process of bringing on board potentially architectural engineering firms to do a complete analysis of all of our schools in preparation to submit a new construction application. That what we've been told is once you submit an application, you're held harmless. So if you make improvements, that those improvements don't count against you in future ratings. But we want at this point someone to come in, take a look at everything, which would include the parking. And I think that that would actually strengthen our overall application, I think, looking at that type of infrastructure. So there's a lot of work happening behind the scenes to see what we can do to get some funding, to make some improvements. This district, from my perspective, overall, they've done an excellent job in really maintaining buildings and making sure custodians are just fantastic. And the board has invested like in roofs and other things, but some of our buildings are just getting so old that there's not much more you can do, and you're really starting to see them deteriorate, like the high school. You know, the high school opened its doors in 1963. And it's been great, but it is starting to deteriorate. You look at Pittston Randolph, you know we've had water problems.
61.
Okay, 61. So, the thousands and thousands of kids who have gone through,
Mhm.
those buildings are just coming to the end of their life. So we're trying to do some things behind the scenes because they need to be taken care of. They need to be repaired. We can't have cars on our pavement or in our parking lots being damaged. Gabe will patch a lot. They do a lot to find temporary means of holding us over, but you can only do that for so long as well.
That was kind of I had the same similar question, but what can we do as a remedial effort to get us from here to when we may or may not get funding? So maybe a Gabe question more than it is your question, but
Yeah, I mean, we continue to patch. This spring, we still have some money in this budget to do some patching over at Pittston. The top side of the loop needs to be patched in a little bit, so we just do a little bit. The problem is the patchings, they only really last 4 to 5 years.
Yeah.
And that's it, because we're just overlaying over the broken tar. The section of the high school, the main parking lot, is beyond even being able to patch it. So we've been putting reclaim in and trying to at least just to stabilize what's there with the reclaim down at the bottom of the parking lot the best we can. And that's really in that parking lot with the size of it, it's beyond fixing and beyond trying to patch.
putting reclaimed in is a good idea.
Yeah, and then it
That's
stabilizes
pretty
it at
well.
least, and we try to compact it in. The water flushes down that parking lot pretty violently when it rains at times, so it does wash away down to the bottom of the parking lot, but we fill it in as needed.
So just question about reclaim, does it ever like get hard? Like what is in reclaim?
Yeah, it's ground up pavement
Okay.
from when the state either does road work, they grind it up, and so it is pavement. It will bind under quite a bit of heat, but not as much as pavement does.
Gotcha.
But it does pack in place. That's why we try to use that to at least stabilize it as much as possible.
Thank you.
Sorry, we can't keep that door closed. This is an open meeting, so people need to know that they can come in. Yeah, sorry.
I like the cold draft.
Vicky, I have one comment that, just to be useful, I'm looking over there. Recently, we had to do community grant program with this type of an effect for a lot of the work I do. We sent out our letters, we sent them a sample too, so all they literally had to do was sign it and send it back, so I just suggest that as an offer. Like if you send them a suggestion letter or so forth, they may just sign it and send it back. We
That was gonna
found
be
that
one of my
worked
questions,
pretty-
if we
pretty
could
well
do
with
that, a suggestion,
Yeah, yep,
because it takes time.
because I gotta write it and put in, yep.
God forbid they use AI.
Oh, goodness, right.
So that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Great,
Just
thank
possible.
you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Just wanted to ask, what's the timeline on hearing back from the community funding project?
The applications aren't even open
Oh,
yet.
okay.
They will open, last I heard, it was probably early to mid-spring. And the turnaround time to submit the application is very short. Last year, I think it was a 3-week window. So you don't have a lot of time, which is why we're being advised to do this work upfront. We've been talking about this with finance since last fall. It took us a long time to get estimates, and so we were really stuck there for a while. But now that we have the estimates on the project, we're starting to move forward. But it's getting to be crunch time. So I want to make sure all of our ducks are in order, so we're ready to roll.
So next on the agenda,
Well, we have a motion on the floor.
on the floor in a second, I'm frankly worried that I don't have this. So we'll figure that out in a minute.
Okay.
All those in favor of the community project? Thank
Great,
you.
thank you.
So the next thing is the minutes were not available for the game workers, and that's the finance committee meeting that I watched from home. So I'm wondering, what we need to do.
Sure, and
that.
we'll have to see what you feel comfortable with. So let me start. If you're not comfortable, we'll table it till next month. But at the beginning of this school year, we had a game worker come forward expressing concern that we were not paying enough, that Nate has to track people down and get people to serve in some of these roles, that they're not knocking on his doors. And so this one game worker wanted to increase compensation by $10 an hour. So we said to the finance committee that Nate, myself, Andrea, and someone else from our office would spend some time looking at it. So we gathered information from other area schools. We looked at the number of hours that people were working. We calculated what that would be per hour. And what we learned is that it's all over the board, right? There was not a lot of consistency. We were paying people per game versus per hour. And a lot of times it depends on how many hours. You might have a game last an hour and a half. You might have a game last 2.5 hours, and the pay was the same. So we were looking at ranges of, some things would be $18 an hour, some were $20 an hour, some were 15 and 55 cents. So what we did is we made a proposal to finance that would instead make all of the rates just an hourly rate per position and make it consistent across the board. So we were recommending that any site coordinator, if the athletic director can't be present, would be $25, that the varsity scoreboard operator would be $22.50 per hour, varsity scorebook operators would be $20 an hour, sub-varsity scoreboard operators would be $20, varsity basketball game announcer would be $20, sub-varsity scorebook operators $18, volleyball flagger $18, ticket takers $16, varsity baseball pitch count $16, and then track and field, that's a flat rate as determined by the MPA, and that would be $150 for the meet. So that's what we did as a recommendation that was approved by finance and sent here for the full board to consider.
We pay somebody to do the pitch count at a baseball
We
game?
do. It's an MPA requirement that we keep pitch count for baseball. And they recommend that it's done by an adult because sometimes there are discrepancies and we don't want to put a student in that situation.
I just have a question.
You said MPA.
It sounded like all of these positions, those hourly rates are more than what an ed tech one makes right now per hour?
Yes, that is true. That was part of our conversation. Part of the fact is getting people to come in at night after work to do this outside of a normal workday. Need to pay a little bit more to be able to attract people to do that. Yep.
And it's true that while it's not academics, it is very much a part of the life of a student. And while none of them may ever become professional baseball or football or field hockey or lacrosse or anything players, the support that they get from this, we have to look at the whole, again, our job is to look at the whole picture.
And these don't have benefits. So when you
No.
think about some of the day positions, there's health insurance and other benefits that are also part of the compensation package.
It feels like a jump,
Mhm.
but we need the support. Our kids need the support.
We hear you. We've
Yeah.
talked about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah, yep. It was a goal.
So.
As long as we're on the finance committee, just in years past, it seems, correct me if I'm wrong, but around now, we start encouraging all of us to be at the meetings or watching them and come up with whether they're cuts or additions or whatever. Is that on coming?
Yes, but could we finish this one item and then we'll go back to that?
Okay.
It'd be great if we could just decide if people support.
You need a vote?
Yes.
I move that we approve the proposal.
One more
Can-
question.
What's
Can
the-
we have a
Let's do
motion?
the motion and the second and then
I'll second.
Tony,
Yeah.
Matt.
What's the rough math of how much more it's gonna cost?
We don't know until we figure out how long our matches are going. So we need a year's worth of data to figure out whether we're spending more or less.
But some of what we're spending was below, it would be below minimum wage. We had some at 13.33, which is below minimum wage now, or 14.29. So there's some that are lower, some that are a little bit higher.
We did budget for some of this, so it's not gonna be a big outlier,
Shouldn't be.
No.
so.
Should not be. So we have a motion and a second. Any further questions, concerns?
Are many of, did we just try to make it a comparable? What we've done for hourly wage? As to what
We
we've been
tried
paying
to
for?
provide some consistency.
Yeah.
So we had some that were making $24 an hour. We don't have those anymore. And we had some that were below minimum wage. So until we get through a year, we're not gonna know exactly how much it costs, but we are bringing consistency.
Trying to create an equalizer.
Yeah,
And timesheets?
yes, they all have to
Yeah.
fill out timesheets.
Andrea?
And just to follow up, when it was brought to our attention that somebody's game had stretched that would put them in minimum wage, we rectified the issue. We weren't regularly paying people minimum wage. So
Knowingly,
I
yes.
just want that
Yeah.
said, so
Yeah.
that everyone understands.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
good call.
Yeah, we have no idea in the office whether the game goes an hour, 2 hours, or 4 hours. So
So are we ready for a vote? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstaining? It's gonna make me ask you why. Because we need to know. You might have something we haven't thought of.
No, it's just that the amount of work and responsibility for the day positions, even though they get benefits. I would think that those people that are working these other positions, they're enjoying the game, they're enjoying the community. There's not the same sense of responsibility for their actions as someone who's working the day job. Just my opinion.
Well, they do have the same responsibility for their actions, and many of our coaches are teachers and ed techs who want to spend more time working with kids. And we actually sort of encourage that because we want our athletics to be an extension of the classroom in our behaviors and what it is we're modeling for kids. They're not all, but that's something that we encourage is that and many of our coaches, is that accurate, Nate?
It is, and a lot of those paid positions, those game worker positions are very high stress positions. You know, keeping the score clock and scorebook for varsity basketball games is high intensity. And it's a lot of stress and it's really difficult.
Gardner takes its athletic very.
We take it very seriously.
And gathering.
Very seriously. You'll see Diane Lane sometimes, you'll see any number of people.
And a lot of the game workers that we do have are ed techs and they're getting additional money by working those positions.
And being with kids. We should be grateful that they want to continue to be with kids. So, and I'm grateful for that.
One of them good when you go to referee. That's a whole nother headache.
I wouldn't want that job. They have to
No,
run and
no,
throw flags and
exactly.
things. I don't want to do that.
That'd be dangerous.
Okay,
So regarding Diane's
Diane.
question.
So Diane.
Yeah.
Regularly, I am saying come to finance because it's time. And so my expectation is that all finance committee members will be at every finance committee meeting. And also that if you're not able to attend as a regular board member or a board member who is not part of the finance committee, that you at least watch or come because we're working on a almost $32 million budget. And so we cannot make changes in an uninformed fashion. That's not what we promised and swore an oath to do. So I have been repeatedly saying that board members need to be at finance, and it is a disappointment when not even the full committee is here because school finance is difficult. The ED 279 in itself is at least a whole day of understanding. So yes, to your question, we're working on it. And later in the meeting, I'm going to talk about board attendance because it is important. We're expected to work as a team. And you can't work as a team when people aren't there to do the work.
So starting next Tuesday, the 12th, every Tuesday at 5:30, until April vacation. There will be a finance committee meeting currently that's scheduled.
That's the
And we
plan,
are
yeah.
asking every board member who can attend to attend because we will be working really hard on the budget. And it's important to hear those conversations and be a part of them.
And be a part of it and not just say yes or no.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Andrea.
So we started the budget conversation back in January where we presented Gabe's 5-year capital improvement plan.
I'm sorry, Andrea, we can't see you. Can you stand up?
So we really started our budget conversation in January with our January finance, as we do every year. We start with a presentation of the 5-year capital improvement plan, which really sets where a substantial amount of your budget is. And then we follow it up with the ED 279, which is a review of your subsidy from the state and how it compares to last year. And then the last meeting was your first glimpse of the budget as it was first prepared. So the beginning of the year, anybody who's interested in finance or interested in the budget and those conversations, it's a good time to start attending meetings.
And I would encourage, they're all live streamed and they're recorded, they're on the website. So if you haven't been able to attend, it'd be really great to go and look at the last 3, watch the last 3 to kind of fill you in preparation for the work that we have that lies ahead of us.
There.
Yeah, I want to be respectful. HCCA is here too.
Yes, I'm excited about that. Policy committee.
Great. So we didn't meet on February 1st. That was the we had a board meeting that night, but not the policy committee. We did have a special meeting on February 28th, so just last week. The minutes are included there. It was to focus on policy AC AAA, the transgender and gender expansive policy. And we did something, sort of allowed public comment at that meeting, as well as had a bit of policy work, but primarily public comment at that meeting. Just to clarify, for board meetings, we public comment is built into the agenda. For committee meetings, often that's not necessarily built in. We have that that time set aside as for the work of the committee. We allowed it because that's what we wanted and what the community wanted, and so we had a robust discussion that evening. I think we were all here, right? So we had more people here than I've I think
Ever
seen in this room, yeah. And I appreciate that everyone was able to keep their commentary well in line and able to speak their mind pretty clearly. So we did have a plan to follow up, and Pat and I are still working out the schedule for that. And Jim, one more thing to miss is your timekeeping, of course, was excellent. We had Chris doing it the other night, your timekeeping.
You just kicked me to the curb. I'm on the way out.
That was its own timing thing.
We need to maybe need to ask you to come for special.
Yeah, no.
You know.
Gonna say that.
Can I say one thing before, I'll let you finish, that was as civil a group of citizens as I've been privileged to see since I've been on this board with a hotbed issue.
Yeah, I agree.
It was balanced on both sides and nobody was out of line. One guy was an itty bit. I think he was making a political statement more than he was making a genuine effort to participate, but that's okay. Politicians do what they do. Anyways, I thought it was fantastic. And what comes of it will be up to the policy committee, but I wish you well. Finish right up.
Yeah, no,
So
and
he's
thanks.
like, bye.
Right? See, you don't let the door hit me on the way out.
I'm gone.
So that was updates on the meetings, and then we do have policies as listed for a second reading. So we saw those last month. And again, if people want to go in, you can look at it in the digital copy of the minutes. It shows like changes that we would make would have a double underline where new language comes in, or a strike through if we're removing that. So feel free to look through. And we do updates to include, so an athletic one, and this I was just reviewing, talked about our collaboration with Halldale, and so that's double underlined. So just some, timely updates, and again, new language that would be in there. So if I could make a motion to advance these policies as listed for a second reading.
Matt and Molly.
Sorry, that was Tony.
Oh, you were making the motion.
And I'm okay.
Everyone wants it. Everyone make a motion. Any further questions or comments? I would like to make a brief comment, and that is that, Jim, I agree with you 100%. Our board meetings are always civil. We don't have outbursts and rudeness, and we've not ever needed to. Just kidding. The outbursts and rudeness might only be us, but we're pretty good at respecting one another, and our meetings are really very congenial, sometimes fun. So I'm really pleased that we have a community that respects when they come in this room. They seem to hear and understand that we represent students, and that's an important place to behave. So that's it, moving forward. Are you gonna sneak out
We still
away
need a
from
vote.
me? I know, but I'm letting them sneak. Sneak away. All those, thank you all. Thank you for coming, it's great to see you. Okay, all those in favor?
Crackers so I can find my way home.
Fairy dust, because it will glow in the dark.
Ah, good.
Unanimous?
Yes. Unanimous. Thank you. Okay. Let's see. Student reps, please.
Okay, hi. So one of the things that we want to was robotics. We officially started our competition season a couple weeks ago. And we went to New Hampshire, and we actually made it to the semifinals, which was pretty cool. So we do have a competition coming up next week. It's called Pine Tree. It's at the Coliseum Lewiston, so anybody is welcome to go. It's March 15th to 17th. Yeah, and that'll be our determining competition to see if we make it to districts, which would be cool. We also have our Spring Fling, which is tomorrow, March 7th. The Tiger Food Pantry has been super successful recently. At Interact, we just edited the bylaws to try to encourage more Interact member student participation, which has been working. There's been a lot more student participation. And we also have prom coming up May 11th at Le Club Calumet in Augusta.
Really? The Calumet Club. Ooh,
Calumet, yeah.
fun.
The theme is Over the Moon. And also with Interact, we have two big events coming up. We have Big Rig Day, March 9th. And we're trying to market it as something for little kids, but also as a job fair. For 18 plus, we're gonna try to see if the people who bring in the trucks and stuff want to bring in a representative to kind of pitch the positions.
That's pretty awesome.
That's really cool.
What a good way to do that.
Yeah.
Sweet.
So that's May 19th, 10 to 2, and we're going to have a craft fair at the high school, May 4th, 9 to 2. We're gonna try to market that as like a last minute Mother's Day gift type of.
Great idea.
Yeah. So yeah.
Focus those things around great important holidays.
What date in May?
May 4th.
May 4th.
On February 16th, the Civil Rights team hosted their Concert for Hope, where they received $436 in donations for the Tiger Food Pantry. There was not a lot of attendance, but that was primarily because there was a lot going on during the time and it was right before February vacation. But it was amazing and it brought a lot of hope to our community. And we ended the Concert of Hope with us all singing Lean On Me together with candles. So it was really beautiful. And they're going to try to make it a yearly tradition. So if you didn't come this year, next year, come and join us, sing Lean On Me with us. Another thing that brought hope to our community is the unified basketball game. Yes.
Yeah.
This week, it was amazing to see how our school came together to support the team. Even the Boys and Girls Club came with like posters and little things that they made. And there was a little halftime show where they, everyone in the audience could join in and dance to YMCA, which was really awesome. And their next game is next week, March 12th at Oak Hill at 3:30 p.m. So if you guys want to go, it's really awesome. And then we have for the Gardner Area High School Drama Club, we have the Princess Bride coming up. It's April 4th, 5th, and 6th at 7 p.m. So mark your calendars. And we also have the Gardner Regional Middle School Drama Club, their show of The Wizard of Oz.
You guys, it's gonna be awesome.
It's May 2nd, 3rd, and 4th at 6 to 7 p.m. I believe.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I was just saying we should have also plugged the father-daughter dance in April,
Oh, yes, thank you.
April 27th. Yep,
All the money for that goes to scholarships.
correct. Yes, yes. So many things coming.
You know, there's a lot.
It's a lot.
The high school drama, April 4th, 5th, and 6th.
Yeah, it's a
What do you all
Thursday.
wanna do? The Thursday night?
I think the board should do that, do another field trip. I'm sadly not going to be at that meeting. I'll be at a national school board conference, but
I can collect registrations again and do tickets, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yep,
So if you wanna do that, that means shifting the board meeting to 5 o'clock. So you have about an hour and a half.
yeah.
And then that means no policy committee meeting, so our hearts won't be broken there, right? I'm afraid,
We'll be
right?
okay to go see.
Sorry. So is that's what you wanna do?
I wish the play was live streamed.
I'm
I
sorry,
think
what?
it used to be.
I don't think we can because there's copyright laws.
I would say, how about we do it at the library like we did last year for.
We can't live
People
stream.
couldn't hear us.
You can't live stream and the audio is really poor. That's why I try to do it at 5 instead of 5:30, to give people a half hour to be able to transition over.
Yep.
Okay, mark your calendars then, 5 o'clock. On April 4th will be the next school board meeting.
Okay, perfect. Administrator reports.
Okay, so LER, they're noteworthy. They've just wrapped up a February attendance campaign. They believe the activities they incorporated had a positive impact on student attendance. They had 92% daily average attendance for the month, which is 2% higher than February of 2023. More significantly, many students who were chronically absent in January have maintained their attendance, which is bringing the chronic absenteeism percentage down. They're feeling confident that they may be below their goal of 19% for the year. The attendance committee will meet again soon to discuss what incentives they may want to pursue for the final trimester. Another noteworthy, Larry Allen, the new custodian, began his position at LER just before February vacation, and Andrea Gruber has returned to LER that week as well. Yay! At Riverview, our art, PE, music, and library community is alive and well. Ms. Carlson, our art teacher, hosted family night on Tuesday with several art activities for students and families to complete. Not in here, but we had 184 people attend, so it was very well attended. We only have 184 students, so we had good attendance. A lot of that was families. Our new PE teacher, Mr. Lambertson, has been teaching students all about fitness, and they've participated in fitness activities where they've learned about muscular strength and endurance, cardiorespiratory endurance, and they had to learn that word, flexibility, and body composition, and how you train your body based on the activity or sport or you are training for. In music, Mrs. Guy Shaker and Mr. Adams have been getting the students ready for their next concert on March 22nd, which is the 3rd grade music and 5th grade band concert. In March is Read Across America Month, and Miss O, our librarian, along with help from the high school librarian, and GEPTA, our PTA, have been planning activities around literacy, so it's been busy. Our challenge. We have been having a challenge with students using inappropriate language at school. Some of the challenges around students not even understanding their language is inappropriate and not respectful. So we have been focusing even more on our 4 Bs and what they mean. Be kind, be respectful, be responsible, and be safe. HT noteworthy. They have been working hard since last year to track and reduce their percentage of chronic absenteeism after reporting the highest levels in the district. They started the year in September at 11% chronic absenteeism, which included 28 students. In October, their rate spiked at 17%, 45 students, and as of the end of January, the rate had dropped to 13%, or 33 students with chronic absenteeism. HT families' commitment to school attendance is greatly appreciated and is making a difference. HT's challenge: sickness has impacted student attendance, and last month at this time, beginning of February, they were reporting 18% illness-related absenteeism school-wide for students, which gets reported to the CDC. Staff members and their families have also experienced illness and have been out due to sickness. We are hoping that this will change as spring approaches. Pittston Randolph Community School, noteworthy. On February 8th, they hosted a family engagement night, Winter Numberland. They had over 75 students attend and over 150 participants playing math games all around the cafeteria. Ms. Carlson created a stamp card so many students who played 3 games could redeem their stamp card for a small prize, and a huge thank you to Goggin IGA, who generously donated the cocoa and cookies. Oh, that sounds yummy. Their challenge: staffing continues to be a challenge. And that is elementary report.
Winter Numberland. I
It was
love that.
amazing.
That is so
And we
clever.
had a book fair that night.
I love book fairs. What I wouldn't
They
give.
were like high on cocoa and book fair. It was great. It was great.
I miss book fairs. I love
Yes.
Yes, and you buy lots of
Lots of books. Oh, I have bought more books lately, but that's another conversation.
All right, so I'm gonna do secondary. So at the middle school, students and staff have participated in acts of kindness over the past month. It began with filling the school full of Valentine's Day kindness hearts with fun jokes and words of encouragement and care for everyone throughout the school. It progressed after February break with a leap year kindness challenge to leap into kindness, right? Early original. But we had a lot of fun where students and staff, they filled out frogs with kind words, thank yous and encouragements, and they were posted around the school. It's been heartwarming to see the things the students and staff want to share. And some of the jokes were great. And there were a lot of like school related jokes. Like one was, hey, did you know, hey, are you a redhead? Cause you're on fire, right? Like, I mean, they were silly and fun and very punny in a lot of ways, but there was a lot of laughter, and they would collect them and take them down and move them elsewhere and share. So it was a lot of interacting. So it was fun. One of our main challenge right now we're seeing is we have a PTO meeting every month, but we're really struggling to get parents engaged in that. We have had sign-up sheets, we send it out in our weekly newsletters, it's always on our calendars, virtual blasts and all those things, but we've only had one parent all year who's the secretary. So we're looking at some other options. We might try a different night with a virtual option to see if we can entice something different. We're gonna think outside the box, but it's really important to us to get parents in our building. So that's just something we're gonna continue to work on. So at the high school, noteworthy, we have dedicated a considerable effort to gathering meaningful data regarding our students' academic progress, aiming to implement effective interventions for those significantly below grade level. Our scheduling process for the 24-25 school year is underway with an accelerated timeline. This year, we are on track to finalize the schedule by the end of March. On Wednesday, February 28th, our staff and students engaged in a spirited basketball game, culminating in an exciting 72-72 tie. Wow, that really is spirited. Holy cow. The halftime festivities featuring a live performance by both staff and students added to the enjoyment of all involved. This event brought our staff and students together in a fun and meaningful way. Furthermore, we are thrilled to announce that the Gardner Area High School episode of Maine Cabin Masters aired on March 4th on the Magnolia Network. We encourage our school community to watch this episode if they haven't already, as it showcases our school and life science program. The challenge: recently we have seen an increase in student behaviors, specifically regarding bathroom vandalism. We are working diligently to review camera footage and address the students that are responsible for this. A big thank you to our custodial staff for helping us as we navigate this issue. Kennebec Neighbors Adult Education, noteworthy, our now full team has adult learners between our cycles. We have 7 students that have passed the high set since the beginning of the year. The graduation ceremony is planned for June 18th, so hold the date and let us know if you would like to be there. The challenge: currently, the director is wrapped up in a renewal application for the AFLA, the Adult Education and Family Literacy Act. I'm going with AFLA. All right, with our partner adult education programs, there is a new and extensive RFP to complete for just $122,000 available to be shared between 4 programs in Kennebec County. So the timeline for this grant has been over the month. In athletics, noteworthy, all winter sports with the exception of middle school wrestling and high school unified basketball have completed their seasons. The high school cheering team and boys basketball team won the MPA Sportsmanship Awards. Eli Farias won the wrestling state championship in his weight class. Ciara Farias placed second in the girls wrestling state championship in her weight class. Our middle school girls basketball team won the CAL championship. The current challenge: trying to coordinate the use of our gyms and facilities with outside organizations, has become a bit of a challenge.
Wow, I haven't heard that in a while.
I know.
Who's next?
Boomerang. Yep. Yay.
Andrea?
Business office. Noteworthy, the new payroll specialist has been hired to replace Ginger Shaw. We are excited to share that Heather Stanley, currently the Pittston Randolph Consolidated School Administrative Assistant, will be joining the business office on March 12th. The business manager is ecstatic that Heather has agreed to join the business office. Can't you tell? She will be a wonderful addition. Just kidding. Property and casualty insurance pre-bids have been emailed. It is the first step in the complicated bid process for soliciting property and casualty bids. In addition, the district, in conjunction with Competitive Energy Services, will soon be soliciting fuel bids for the 24-25 fiscal year. Challenge: while Ginger Shaw has been very generous to work in the evenings to help with the processing of payroll, covering Ginger's workload with part-time hours has been a struggle, especially during the budget season. While the workload has been overwhelming, the business manager considers herself very fortunate to work in an office with wonderful individuals who will do anything they can do to help. For that, she is extremely appreciative. Technology. Noteworthy, cybersecurity training for technology staff is being provided through the state of Maine. The district cyber response plan is being updated. Plans to increase security training for staff and students are being made. Challenge: federal and state funds from COVID grants have been used to pay for access to software for teachers, parents, and students. Software packages were varied, but included Seesaw for grades pre-K to 3 and Google Education for grades 4 to 12. Funding for this software is no longer available from the federal and state reserve, and if required, must be budgeted through the local budget. Special services. Noteworthy, the Special Services Department would like to recognize Anna MacArthur, our life skills teacher at the middle school. Anna, alongside her dedicated classroom staff and students, has been creating culinary delights through the Falcon Cafe. Within this program, both staff and students collaborate to produce 2 delicious meals per week, while serving as a platform for students to hone their foundational math and safety skills during meal preparation. Moreover, they cultivate invaluable social skills as they travel through the school community to deliver these yummy creations. Each hearty meal comes with an entree, side dish, dessert, and water.
And when I say they are amazing, oh.
Really?
Yeah, I'd like
Oh.
Twice a week. Delicious.
It's really
We
incredible.
order them here and go pick them up. Really?
Yeah.
Oh, they're so good.
I wanna go.
And you should order and pick it up.
I would do that. You let me know the day, I'll be there.
The challenge in special services is finding staff continues to be the challenge. The special education department currently has 4 unfilled teaching positions and 10 unfilled ed tech positions. These positions have been unfilled for most of the school year. Operations, noteworthy, our 2 newest custodians started the week before vacation break and are settling in well. We all welcomed February break and a majority of Gabe's staff took some much needed time off. The challenge, the bathroom vandalism and flushing things that are not meant to be flushed. That is the challenge. Nutrition, noteworthy. March is National Breakfast Week and Read Across America Week. The elementary kids love breakfast for lunch, so we're having breakfast for lunch every day the first week in March to celebrate National Breakfast Week, and that breakfast has a book related to it. And that breakfast has a book related to it to celebrate reading across America. Challenge, one of our challenges is there's not a lot of time to eat breakfast. So when we celebrate National Breakfast Week, we don't have time, and that is why we are celebrating breakfast during lunch. Curriculum. Our district was awarded a grant from the Maine Department of Education for $105,000 to focus on improving literacy, specifically in the area of comprehension. The primary focus will be in grades 6 through 12 with a secondary level of support for K to 5. The funds must be spent down between March and September of 2024. That's a very short timeline. Full details on how the funds will be used were discussed during the February Curriculum Committee meeting, and that information is available in the recording on our website. Challenge, time. It's a perennial challenge. Time is needed to meet with our educators and leaders to continue to make improvements in collaboration with one another, to observe teaching and learning practices, and to continue strengthening our connections with community to ensure that the doors are open. That sentence doesn't make sense. Basically, strengthen the connections with the community to enhance learning experience for students. I reread that one before I typed it. That's everyone. Any questions?
Neat.
Can I just add one more noteworthy thing under athletics, which this was written before we actually had our first home unified basketball game. And so I just wanted to let everybody know that unified basketball has been a success beyond, I think, my expectations, I think everybody else's expectations too. So if you haven't been to a unified basketball game, we've packed the gym. We had 3 home games this season, 3 away games, and the excitement level was incredible. So I just wanted to say that unified was a huge success. Yes. Jim.
Would you explain what a unified basketball game is?
Yeah. So it's a collaboration between Special Olympics and the MPA. And so it's special ed students with partners. So they're regular ed students, special ed students, they play basketball. It's an unbelievable environment. It's kids make posters and we packed the gym. It was just amazing. So.
And the opposite, like they both teams cheer for each other.
Yeah.
And the crowd cheers for
Yeah,
both
and the
teams.
partners help the special ed students and, you know, if they can't make a basket, they help them with that. And it's just a great.
It's how life should be.
Yeah,
And we're
exactly.
looking to figure
It's
out how to get
amazing.
it to the middle
It's-
school.
it is
I'm so excited to get to a
Brings
game.
tears to, there are no more home games.
We'll have, Oak Hill is not far.
So,
Yeah.
so they
It's
finished
not a
off the season
finance.
with Oak Hill on Tuesday and then, you know, and we are defeated in our first season.
And Thursday is against Booth Bay, in Booth Bay?
In Booth Bay at 1 o'clock. So Booth Bay is having it at 1 o'clock. That's their last game. So their entire student body can go. So next year, we're gonna do the same thing here. We're gonna have a game at 1 o'clock, so the entire student body can go. which would be-
Field trip to Booth Bay?
Are they going to allow members of the public to go into their school during the day?
absolutely.
Okay.
That won't be an issue.
Are you kidding?
Yeah.
It's us.
So,
We're safe.
I just wanted to mention it.
Thank you, Nate. It's just so awesome. I just love that. Anything that celebrates kids and all the things they can do and will do. That's wonderful. So thank you. And Angela, thank you. It's great. The last sentence made sense. Oh, good.
You have wellness next, and we actually have a meeting scheduled. I just wanted to flag that for folks. We have on March 19th at
Excellent.
3:15.
March
We haven't had one in a while.
A hot minute.
Yeah.
Yes, Joanne.
I was just gonna ask, are there, since there's an issue with the bathrooms and vandalism, is it certain bathrooms at certain times? Do we have any kind of time frame, and what are we trying to do?
It's not located to just one bathroom. It's about 2 that are more popular.
And
And in our school, it's mainly the boys' bathroom where we're seeing the majority of our windows. Yeah.
I was gonna ask if it was girls' bathroom too, but I didn't think so.
No.
Just the boys. I know that there's that key in, for like if people are having lunch in the band room when we went on the tour. Can we do something where we have basically someone in front of the most troublesome bathrooms where people have to key in to get in so that we have timeframes about what's going on?
We have a fancy bathroom tracking system at the high school, right?
I
I don't know what to call it.
Smart pass. Fancy tracking system.
Fancy.
So we are using Smart Pass to
Yeah.
help narrow it down. We're using cameras. Some of these students choose not to follow that protocol when they're looking to engage in bathroom activities that they shouldn't. Are you talking about like a sign-in sheet with a staff member outside the bathroom? Or like a key, like scanner? Because we don't have doors on our bathrooms.
I know, and that's what I'm thinking, if the personnel issue of having a monitor is something, unless you can get a volunteer or something like
We are
that.
open to volunteers filling out the forms. We will set up a bathroom schedule to monitor.
So bathrooms are for one purpose only, and
Yes.
I trust that you guys are gonna get there.
Working on it.
You're working on it.
Getting in and out.
Getting in and out quick. So
It's working.
moving along, because we have some special guests that we don't want to force to sit here longer than they must. So next is general information.
Yes, just as written.
Okay, excellent. And coaches as written. No nominations. So this now is HCCA's turn. And I want to say, I have known Emma Mooney since she was like, I don't know, 4. And I'm so happy to see you, Emma. I'm really delighted. You have traveled the world and you have become just a successful young woman, which I always knew you would be, because that's how you were raised and you are by nature. And you come back to Gardner or
She's helping
Maine.
us. Yeah.
You come back and you're just doing such great things. I love it when our students grow up, graduate, go do what they need to do, and then choose to come back, because Maine is a special place, and I'm hoping that that's why you came back.
Yes, thank
And
you,
it's really
Becky.
nice to have you here.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
So with that, I will introduce her to everyone. So this is Emma Mooney, and she is a 2008 valedictorian of
Yes, she
Gardner
is.
Area High School. And we are, I come from Healthy Communities of the Capital Area. My name is Patricia Welp, as you know. And I'm here because we have a drug-free communities grant that is specifically addressing, working with our middle school and our high school around substance use prevention and mental health. And in order for us to really kind of look at those situations, we are very grateful that our superintendent and our board supports our students doing the Maine Integrated Youth Health Survey. And we are lucky, I'm saying this in gratitude because there are a lot of school districts in Kennebec County that do not participate. In fact, Northern Kennebec, we didn't have any high schools that participated in the youth survey. So we are grateful that Pat has always been our cheerleader to make sure that that happens. And we have staff at both buildings that support that. Because it's really important to get those numbers for not only to let us know what's going on, but also for grant purposes so that we can justify what we're asking for. So our drug-free communities grant, I'm in year 5, because unfortunately we got it right at the beginning of COVID. So we didn't see much of each other for a couple of years. And now we're doing great stuff. So I'm going to let Emma go on with the presentation that we have for the Maine Integrated Youth Health Survey, and she's going to talk really fast.
I'm gonna speed through, and I just am having a little bit of a technical difficulty, so I just need to rejoin the Zoom. That's okay. And I don't want to blow out the right.
And Emma, you don't need to hurry for us.
Okay.
We're here.
It's a
lot of fun.
It's a dense slide.
It's okay.
So
It's really
let's see
okay.
if they're
We're here,
pressing
and this is important for us. This is our work.
We like data. I do.
We're data geeks. It's good.
I do. It's all good.
I get my hair out of everybody's.
Way to look into the school photo too.
See over my hair?
And we're not gonna take questions during the presentation. So take notes on anything that you want to address, and we will try to address those afterwards. Angela and I will hopefully be able to remind.
Thank you, Patricia.
Yes, go ahead. Just. Yeah.
Yeah, right. You got this.
All right. So Patricia set this up really well, and I do want to echo her gratitude to this district for participating in this survey. I hope you will find that this is helpful. The way I've set it up, for the most part, you'll get a look at 2019 data, 2021, and 2023, so we can kind of look back over the 5 years into span. But we're going to focus on the winter 2023 survey, which was administered across the state between January and March 2023. And the thing to know about that is that all these questions are asking students about either the full range of their past experiences or their past 12 months, which would really be calendar year 2022. So we really are looking backwards. And I think it's helpful to keep that in mind just as we think about, we took it in 2023, but we're really looking back. As we said, this is administered to students in grades 7 through 12. So when I say middle schoolers, I'm really referring to 7th and 8th graders. And we use the data to understand youth health needs and also progress. The data are weighted. The CDC invites schools using a statistically drawn sample, allows all schools to participate, but as we've said, not all schools choose to participate. As you can see here, we don't have Kennebec County data this year. We also don't have Central Public Health District data for at least the high school. So we really can't even look at students in Somerset and Kennebec counties. So we're looking at a little bit of a data gap here. But luckily we have our MSAD11. You're going to hear me refer to MIAS. That's just the abbreviation for Maine Integrated Youth Health Survey. And just a reminder that the high school is everybody, but the middle school is just 7th and 8th grade. From the high school, 410 students responded to at least one question, which is about 2/3 of enrolled students. Students are able to skip questions. They're not compelled to answer any particular questions. So that's why it says responded to at least one question. When you look at the respondent profile, we're looking at a pretty even gender split if we're just talking about female and male. 1 in 4 students identified themselves as gay, lesbian, bisexual, unsure of their sexual identity, or describing their sexual identity in another way. And then 23% identified as LGBTQ+, 5% as transgender, and 3% said that they speak a language other than English at home. So this is kind of your demographic look at the respondents here. At the middle school, there was an 80% response rate among 7th and 8th graders, 235 students out of 293. Got a pretty even gender split here. And you're looking at 29% of students who identify as gay, lesbian, bisexual, unsure of their sexual identity, or describing it in another way. Middle school level, 4% of respondents said they were transgender. We don't have race or ethnicity data reported for either the high school or the middle school. Just as a starting point, I want to talk a little bit about adverse childhood experiences, which are often abbreviated to ACEs. These are potentially traumatic events or experiences that occur in childhood. They're common and they can add up over time, as I'm sure many of you in this room know. Some examples are abuse, neglect, household dysfunction. It could also be community violence, homelessness, involvement with the criminal justice system. Those are just some examples. At Gardner High School, 31% of respondents reported 4 or more adverse childhood experiences. So a tally of 4 or more of these experiences that fall in this bucket. 31% of 622 enrolled students is just under 200 students in this group of students. What we know about ACEs is that there's a correlation with likelihood of having poor health, substance use, mental illness, or other chronic conditions in adulthood. These are just 2 slides that briefly address physical activity and nutrition. There are some questions at both the high school and the middle school level about physical activity and nutrition. And I just want to kind of tell you what you're going to see in a lot of these slides. Yellow is always 2019 data, blue is always 2021, and green is 2023. And I just want to remind us that 2021 was a weird year. This survey was taken in the fall instead of in January and March, which is its normal window. It was also looking back at a very odd school year, so 2020 into 2021. So I just want to put a big asterisk over all the blue data. It's not that we shouldn't consider it, it's just that it needs to be considered with caution because it's really not a one-to-one. What you're looking at here is actually what we would consider unhealthy behaviors. So this is students who had fruit or fruit juice less than 1 serving a day in the last week, less than 1 serving of vegetables per day in the last week, but at least 1 sugar-sweetened beverage per day in the last week, and didn't get the recommended amount of physical activity in the last week. Because there's so much data, I just want to say what we want to be seeing is decreasing numbers. We want this ticking down. So at the middle school, 60% almost of students aren't getting 1 serving of vegetables a day, at least in the last week. So we're looking closer, we're looking more for what you're seeing in the physical activity, where you're seeing slight improvements overall. We'll look at the same thing for the high school. This is set up exactly the same way. You can see that we are seeing some upticks where we would love to see downticks, but none of this is really statistically super significant. It's just pretty consistent year to year. A lot of the slides in this presentation are really about substance use. There are a lot of questions about substance use, and I'm sure this group is interested in what we're seeing with substance use. And I've presented it a couple of different ways, so we can just take a look. So here we're looking at 7th and 8th graders who say they've ever used the substances listed ever in their lifetime. And again, you've got 2019, 21, and 23. If you see missing bars that you think should be there, it means that that question wasn't asked in the other years, the missing years. When we talk about lifetime substance use, we're really talking about experimentation. So more like a higher percentage of students who show lifetime substance use, that's a higher percentage of students willing to experiment. And Patricia can speak better to this, but this is the point where you really want to try to kind of get your prevention effort in before students are really even in that experimentation phase. What I want to say about this is you're not seeing significant statistical differences. It's also not significantly different from Maine. This is pretty consistent with the state. This is past month substance use at the middle school. So asking in the last 30 days, what percentage of students use these substances? And you can see it's a decrease. We talk about past month is really a measure of current use. You can kind of think of them as similar. And what I want to highlight here is that past month use of 2 substances is statistically significantly higher at the middle school than it is in Maine overall. And that's marijuana and electronic vapor products. So for both of those, that's about twice the rate at the state level. So where 10% of GRMS 7th and 8th graders have used marijuana in the last month, that's 5% for the state. So it's double the state rate. Otherwise, it's pretty stable. Keep that asterisk on the blue. We're not seeing significant increases or decreases. So now we're looking at the same things, but for the high school. So we're looking at high school students who have ever had alcohol, marijuana, or used electronic vapor products. Again, we would love to see this trending downward from a public health perspective. Lifetime use for all of these substances is significantly higher at Gardner High School than it is in Maine overall. So for each of these, alcohol, marijuana, and electronic vapor products, that's a significant difference. Past month goes down, and they ask more questions about past month use of the high schoolers. That's why there are more substances that you can see across the bottom. So what you're seeing, right, is that a quarter of high school respondents had used alcohol in the last month, and more than a quarter had used marijuana. Just under a quarter, slightly under a quarter had vaped. And then your cigarette and prescription drug numbers are lower.
Can you
explain? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
just prescription drugs? What are we talking about?
I'll explain that quickly. It's a good question. It's described as misuse of any drug that be prescribed, and there are some examples. They give some examples so the students know what they're talking about. And now it's the same data broken out in a different, now we're looking at it grade by grade. And this is past month use of alcohol. So as you would expect, you're seeing the numbers tick up as students get older, as they have perhaps, friends or more access. Once again, we are looking for a downward trend, which we're seeing in some of these spots. Because we're only looking at 21 and 23, I'll repeat myself one more time. That blue line really need to be like pretty skeptical of it, because they took the 2021 survey in October, November 2021. So when they're thinking about the past month, for example, 9th graders had only been at the high school for a couple of months versus the 2023, they'd been at the high school for a whole semester. So it's not a one-to-one, and I just want to say that one more time. So alcohol here, we're seeing 45% among the 12th graders, but an interesting dip among the 11th graders to 22%. Tobacco, as you can see, significantly lower percentages. These ups and downs, because of the small number of individual students who are actually using these substances, that's not a significant change. That's pretty steady. This is marijuana. So we're generally seeing an increase across all grades, the exception of the 9th graders, where we see this sort of insignificant drop off. I just want to remind everybody, I'm sure everyone's aware, but in order to possess or use non-medical cannabis in Maine, you do have to be 21. So I just wanted to clarify, there's not a point in here where half the seniors turn 18 and can legally use marijuana. That's not the case. And electronic vapor products. So here we're seeing this interesting 2021 spike in the 11th graders, but I don't know what would explain that. I think we'll need maybe another year of data to kind of really see what's going on here. One more way to look at this is by gender. So this includes grades 7 through 12, and it's just split male and female. Male is dark blue, female's orange. And you can see that a slightly higher percentage of female students reported using alcohol and electronic vapor products in the last month. I didn't put this on the slide because it's not statistically significant, but I just wanted to tell you that compared to 2021, you're seeing slight increases in female student use of alcohol and marijuana. So alcohol is up slightly from 18% to 22%, which is what you see here in the orange. Marijuana is up from 16% to 23%.
Risk factors are characteristics that precede and are associated with a higher likelihood of negative outcomes in adulthood. And a negative outcome, if we're talking about substance use, would mean a substance use disorder. At the level of interpersonal relationships, a couple examples of risk factors would be parents who use drug and alcohol, child abuse, maltreatment, and inadequate supervision is also considered a risk factor. There are quite a few questions that ask about risk factors as well as use. This is just looking at the high school. 1 in 4 students at the high school has experienced violence or threat of violence in their home. 40% have ever lived with an adult who had a problem with alcohol or drugs. 3% reported housing instability during the past month. 45% have had sexual intercourse, and perhaps more relevantly, 20%, 1 in 5, has ever experienced forced sexual contact. 26% reported that they had been bullied on school property in the last year. So this is just a picture of some of these risk factors in different areas of students' lives when we talk about the high school students. This slide is a little confusing. What we're looking at here is how many middle schoolers think their parents, so they think their parents don't think it would be very wrong for them, the students, to use alcohol or marijuana. So we want these numbers to be low, and they're fairly low, although roughly 10% of middle schoolers think their parents don't think it would be a problem if they use marijuana. This is in line with the state. When I'm not flagging it, it means that it's kind of in line with what we see at the state level. I wish I could give you county, I wish I could give you public health district, but unfortunately we don't have it. This is high schoolers' own beliefs about substance use, not their parents, their own. These are the percentage of high school students who think there's no risk or a very slight risk of harm from binge alcohol drinking, marijuana, and prescription drugs. We would want these numbers to be low from a public health perspective. So 1 in 5 students at the high school doesn't think it's very risky to drink alcohol in a sort of a binge pattern. 75%, 3 out of 4, think it's low risk to use marijuana, and 1 out of 10 think it's low risk to misuse prescription drugs. It's pretty steady. This has held over these 3 years. There's not a lot of movement here. Again, you can also look at this by grade. It's pretty steady. This is youth perception of alcohol use risk. So people who think this is risky. This is the flip, actually. We were looking at students who think it's low risk. These are students who think it's moderate or great risk for binge alcohol consumption. For tobacco. For marijuana. So you can see the scale is the same on all these slides. So you can see that there's a big change, especially the stair step, right, between the 7th and 8th graders, and then a sort of consistent decrease as students enter high school. This is pretty consistent too, 2021 to 2023. And again, all of this is consistent with the state, as far as I know. This is just one other way to look at the same data. I'm just assigning the 7th graders purple, 9th graders blue, and 12th graders pink. And these are the percentages of students in those grades who think alcohol, tobacco, and marijuana pose a moderate or great risk. So you can see alcohol, tobacco, that stays pretty steady from 7th to 12th grade, but marijuana, again, is just looks like a stair step. This looks at ease of access. So this is students at the middle school on the left and the high school on the right. We say that it would be sort of or very easy to get alcohol if they wanted it. So we want these numbers to drop as well. We're not really seeing that. The only significant data difference here is that this is a statistically significant increase at the middle school from 2021 to 2023. But again, with caution, because we're looking at 2021. We're looking at the same thing for marijuana. So you can see that the middle school level, fewer students think it's easy to get marijuana. The high school level, alcohol and marijuana are pretty on par with one another. The data for the high school here is significantly higher than it was in 2021, but more importantly, it's significantly higher than Maine overall. So in Maine, 54% of high schoolers versus 64% say it'd be easy to get marijuana if they wanted some. All right, mental health and bullying. We're looking at lifetime mental health at the middle school here. So this is the middle school students are asked to think about their whole lifetime. And the question about sad or hopeless is about students feeling so sad or hopeless for 2 or more weeks in a row that it interferes with their ability to kind of do their normal routines and participate in things they like. So what you're seeing here is that 40% of middle school students, 7th and 8th graders, said that they felt sad or hopeless for 2 or more weeks in their lifetime. And just over 1/4 have ever seriously considered killing themselves. I say that because the question there is, have you ever seriously thought about killing yourself? So this is 27% say yes to that question. Gardner High School, at the high school level, they ask about the past year. They're not asking about ever, they're asking about the past 12 months. So 38% of high school students felt sad or hopeless for 2 or more weeks in the last year, and 20% have considered suicide, seriously considered suicide in the last year. This slide kind of has like a mix of positive and negative data. On the left, you're seeing the percentage of Gardner Middle School students who agreed that they feel safe at school. That's the leftmost set of bars. Then you're seeing percentages of students who say they've ever been bullied on school property, and then that they've ever been bullied electronically, which was a new question for middle schoolers. So we don't have a comparison point. So just under half of middle schoolers said that they had been bullied on school property. I will say that statistically, this is a significant drop from 91 to 76%. But I think this is one real place where the timing of the survey could be showing up. Students who've only been in school for 2 months versus an entire semester and gone on winter break. So I really would caution this one to be a particularly big asterisk.
They also were not all in school. That was the year there was like, they had cohorts in those layers too, so it might have been impactful there too, I wonder.
Yeah, so I think lots to think about, even though I'm presenting them side by side on this slide. This is past year for the high school. So again, we are seeing a dip in students who feel safe at school. I think some of the same reasons probably play into that. We are seeing an increase in students who report that in the last 12 months, they were bullied on school property. Timing there again, 2021 to 2023 is worth considering. The electronic bullying is really unchanged, 2021 to 2020. Protective factors can just be thought of as like buffers against the risk factors and the adverse childhood experiences. Their relationships or experiences that children and young adults have that can kind of push back against some of the negative experiences. And the great news is that there's a lot of family support. Middle schoolers, 4 out of 5, said that their parents talk about what they're doing in school with them several times a week, and that their family gives them love and support most or all of the time. I think that's pretty good. You know, those are high numbers. And it's really similar at the high school. Parents talk about what they're doing in school, they give them love and support. That's a very important and powerful protective factor. This slide is extremely dense because it has the actual questions that students responded to on it. Again, you've got 2019, then 2021, then 2023. This is asking about adults at school. So how often do adults in your school address conflict, negative language, and bullying in positive ways to help students? 28% in 2023 said that most of the time or always adults in their school address conflict in positive ways. 41% said that their school enforces rules fairly. And 79%, so 4 out of 5, said that they strongly agree or agree that at least one of their teachers really cares, gives them help and support when they need it. So again, it's almost 80%. These are pretty stable numbers. These are not significant differences between 2019 and 2023. This is our last slide. Thinking a little bit broader about where students find support. 40%, most or all of the time, feel people at the school care about students and encourage them. Totally in line with Maine at 43%. 46% strongly agree or agree that in their community they feel like they matter to people. So that's 50% in Maine. And one point that I think it's talked about a little bit less is that 60% of students, most or all of the time, have support from adults other than their parents. That's compared to 54% in Maine, and that is a statistically significant difference. So it's a higher, statistically higher than the state average. And so I wanted to end there on that positive note. Students are drawing support from other adults around them. So happy to answer questions. I know Patricia and Angela also are, or run slides back as needed.
So I want board members to ask questions, but let's raise hands and do it in a really orderly way so we don't overwhelm each other, over talk. Jim.
The prescription drugs that, excuse me, the prescription drugs that you mentioned, were they gotten illicitly at home? Or they're not prescription drugs for the student, I'm assuming?
I think they could be prescription drugs for the student that are used not in the way they're prescribed. That would still be misused. I don't have data on how students get these drugs, but that's a great question.
And it's usually the same way they're getting marijuana and alcohol out of their own medicine. So that's one of the reasons why that we work very strongly, it's coming right up again, is Drug Take Back Day, to make sure that we don't keep excess medication around for young people to get their hands on.
I was gonna say, it seems to be a very strong correlation between the number of ACEs a student has and these numbers. So if you have people at home that are abusing drugs and alcohol and prescription drugs, it's going to have much more access, and high schoolers are going to be much more sneaky about getting access to it, as well as other people in their social circle that may be older and pass things along as well. And I think until we really kind of get our hands on trying to help families in general not self-medicate, we're putting a lot on schools to try to mitigate the circumstances that we find ourselves as teachers and administrators and school boards and community at large.
I think one of the things I said 2 years ago when we came and we addressed the all this data is that this isn't on the school. This data isn't on just all of you. It is definitely a community and a culture issue. And nationally, we just got back from a national conference, Beth Brooker, the social worker, and I. And one of the things we heard over and over again is that there are national surveys out there, and they have a hard time in this culture getting other states to take surveys and get information. And one of the things they're seeing is that the states who have legalized marijuana and medical marijuana, our rates are higher. And our rates are particularly higher when we have a small community and we have so much access and the messaging is there. So it is a culture that we are pushing against, and it's a different product. You know, they're all different products. And one of the things that all those numbers that are higher, the female numbers are going up. Even in our age, we're all drinking more. And if you look at marketing,
It's to women.
it's the marketing. They're going directly to our young girls in all products all the way across the line. So that's why those numbers are creeping up more and more, because they're being deliberately marketed to.
Patricia, can you say if the prescription drug aspect is much lower than the marijuana?
Mhm.
In other states where they don't have legalized marijuana, are prescription drugs
Oh,
higher?
I don't know.
Because I would think one would kind of balance the other.
Yeah, I don't know what that number would be.
I did want to check on one thing that stood out a little bit was the perception of cannabis use as like 75% okay, right? I mean, just stood right out right there. That seems like a spot to work on education or other prevention there, just because I'm comparing overdose or risk things or whatever, but there's still risks with cannabis use. Not zero.
And our health teachers do a great job in their health classes. They're all explaining the dangers of high THC use. And so one of the examples that I like to tell people is that right now, the marijuana that is being sold in the stores start at 15% THC. On a normal, it's usually, if you have a pen, it's 30% THC. And what Lauren's grabbing at the high school is much higher than that because she's taking dabs. And dabs start at 70% THC. So the product is much more intense. It's like instead of having a beer, you're having moonshine.
Yeah.
You know, it's really that kind of a comparison. You're, instead of a beer, you're having moonshine, straight moonshine. So the high intensity THC is much more addictive. It used to be that the cannabis distributors used to be able to say they weren't the gateway drug. Well, since Colorado, that has changed. And we're seeing it across the United States that it's not only addictive, but it is cause of accidents. And it's cause of increased mental health issues because of the high intensity THC, because they have to have it all the time. And then it leads to, I got to get a little bit higher. So that's why we have an increase of methadone, opiates, and those other types of drugs. And unfortunately, in the illegal cannabis market, we have to be very, very careful with our messaging with our young people. But now we are being told by the DEA that fentanyl is being sprinkled on cannabis.
Yeah.
So when the kids think that they've got their hands on just cannabis, it may not be just cannabis, right?
I'm wondering, and please tell me if I'm wrong. I think it's curious that our numbers of abuse are higher. And yet 75% of our students believe they have great relationships with another adult. Is there any perhaps correlation between those things? And I'm not intending to say anything bad about the adults that are with our kids, because I'm an adult with my kids. But is there any sort of, is there any kind of correlation between those numbers?
I think everybody's house is their norm.
Thank you. Yes.
So
Right.
I was raised in the 70s, and it was nothing for me to sit in the living room with 4 adults smoking a cigarette right next to me.
Right.
And drinking all night.
That's
That
what I'm
was
kind of
the norm.
trying, right, I'm trying to ask that in a nice, polite way,
No,
so thank you.
That's our norm, you know,
Yeah.
everybody has their own norm, and you don't know what another norm is until you get out of that norm. But our parents loved us, very active with us, but
Asked you about school?
asked us about school at every function, but you still, I think that that is an important part of the education. I know that Hillary Wings touches on in the middle school when she starts those conversations with the kids is your history can impact your substance use. And that's very much part of our programming with around teaching about addiction, because if you have addiction in your family, you're much more
You're prone to that.
very much more.
So Megan and then Katie and then Jim. Thank you.
I was just gonna point out or say, I wondered if the numbers in our area were higher like that because we have a really I don't know, there's a lot of weed stores.
Got a lot,
you know?
got a healthy
There's
market.
Got a lot, yeah,
grocery
in our
store, but a market.
area, you know, like, and I just from driving and seeing them, it didn't even occur to me. But driving in another community and not seeing them and being like, oh yeah, it's not every community, so it's like, we do have those, and that adds an extra layer of like the work that you guys are doing,
Accessibility,
it's,
too.
yeah, we have
Accessibility and
to.
needed protection.
And just keeping that, like, oh, I have conversations with my kids, and we're like, oh, another weed store, another, we're like, that's an opportunity to have those conversations too,
exactly.
and know exactly what that store is there for, and it doesn't send the message like, oh yay, weed is okay, because it's just in all these stores, but obviously some kids are probably getting that idea, because if there's a new weed store popping up everywhere, then, right? They must be getting
They're very shiny, they're very clean, they look
great
very hip.
aesthetics, right?
So if we are
Marketing.
it seems from these numbers that we are losing the battle of public opinion against marijuana, so how do we shift our focus to make sure that our students know, like, one, what is specifically risky to them based on their age group because of developing brains, and like, and also specifically what's the impropriety of bringing it on school grounds ever? Like,
Yeah.
where can we put our focus to make sure that, like, if our community is not going to say, like, marijuana use in every form is not okay because it is recreational and people are doing it. But how can we create that culture in our students where they know that it's not acceptable when you're in a duty status, I guess, you shouldn't be doing that at school. You shouldn't be.
I think we're all trying to do that message over and over and over again.
On a total loop.
And the dual use that we see, so one of the things I did want to bring out is that when the kids answer the questions on tobacco, in their minds, they're thinking cigarettes.
Right.
So the questions are absolutely about tobacco, it's not the vaping questions. And really, a lot of our young people who start vaping don't even think that it's nicotine.
Right.
And that's how they get hooked so very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And so now with the nicotine in a vape pen, now you have marijuana in the vape pen. So there's a lot of dual use, and we see that a lot. And so our presentations moving forward and our funding that we're asking for in years 6 through 10 in our reapplication is going to be focusing on dual use.
Yeah.
Because it is really, I think we're going to start seeing it. So vaping came around in 2014, hit the state pretty hard in 2016. Right now, we've got legislature. Hopefully our legislators will do the right thing. They'll do that and we won't have flavors. That is how a generation of our kids have gotten hooked. But cannabis is also flavored. So they just don't think that there's a correlation between those two. So our new presentations are going to be focused on that, and we'll be sharing that information with our teachers because now we have scientific proof with that high THC potency, how it's affecting them. It's affecting their brains. It's affecting their relationships and so on and so forth.
Joanne, we need to, Katie first and then Jim.
Oh, just real quickly, like Tony, the perception of risk was the standout statistic, and I wondered how that compares statewide.
Yes. I can.
Pretty close.
It's not. It's significant. It's not significantly different from the state.
And one of the things we're asking our, our MIAS people at the state is if we can look, I'm on a work group for the CDC on cannabis. And one of the numbers that we want to really look at and see if we can pull out is this statistically higher or lower in the communities that don't have
Sure.
6 marijuana
Right.
plants
Yeah.
downtown. But to add to that, just to let you know, we have 100 caregivers. That's totally different. So we have the businesses and then we have grows everywhere.
Right.
So the kids know that. The kids are very well aware of where the grows are. And they're in all of our communities, either legally or not legally.
Well, Jim.
Yeah. Things are changing. I could remember in high school, at my age, we had a smoking camp, a quad, where we all could go and smoke. I never did. But so our approach is changing. We have a lot more things to worry about. But I love data, but I love answers better. What kind of this in this next 5-year program, will you be coming up with some assistance to help the board come up with some programs that we can facilitate that will actually make a difference? Because right now we're swimming upstream. I mean,
Right.
I mean, like everybody just mentioned, I can't drive through Gardner without seeing either a vaping store, a marijuana dispensary, and it's hard to fight.
Well, what I can first say to you right off the bat is that you've already said the first answer, and that is we have evidence-based programming that's in both the schools now. It's called Sources of Strength, and it's youth-driven, and it addresses mental health, physical health, spirituality, community connectiveness, parent support, and there's 2 more and I can't remember what the other, there's 8. It's a wheel.
Okay.
8. And if you would like, I'll come back and we'll talk about sources of strength because this is our first year. We trained in October. So this is kind of our pilot year to see how things are going.
We have
And
in school now.
yes.
Super.
Yeah, at the high school and the middle school, and the both buildings are very supportive of that.
Yes,
But it's
there's the
also a
wheel.
capacity issue. So I'm kind of that extra staff to try to keep that going. So we're working on that. We're working on capacity and, our kids, we all know that Aura is very busy and I know that Sage she's involved in everything. And those are the kids who are also on SOS. So our kids are very, very busy who have volunteered to do this as well. But I think that our grant is going to be supporting that. There are fees and we're going to be helping with materials and putting that information out. And it's also going to be shared within the community. The other thing that we're doing is community connectiveness and making sure. So one thing we know is ineffective is you can't get parents at the middle school to do PTO. We don't get parents to sit and listen about vaping, bullying, marijuana, alcohol. I get the eye roll with, why don't you have a birthday party without a cooler of beer? That might be, number one. So it's a culture that with parents, it's tough to get them through the school. So how I'm trying to get them is through work sites. It's through community organizations like the Rotary. The Elks Club have reached out. They're actually going to be partnering with us on an additional grant to help us with this. So each year we can build upon what we have. My grant will only support evidence-based programming, but the other programs that we can get in, Lauren and I are talking about Choice Matters, which is put out by the Public Safety Board, and it's around drinking and driving. It's not evidence-based yet, but it might make the kids think, just a little bit before they drink and get behind the wheel.
I've used it at other schools, it's really impactful.
Yeah, it's very impactful but it's not evidence-based. See, but I can help collaborate, those kind of things.
Joanne, you got a
I
question?
was just gonna say alcohol, if a child is caught with alcohol in school, what would be the procedure? Would you be calling a parent in?
Yes.
And the same thing would happen if you found someone with vaping materials?
It depends, there's different policies on each of those, so the vaping, the tobacco policy is pretty straightforward. And it outlines a first offense and a second offense and a third offense. Alcohol and drugs like marijuana usually winds up with a meeting with Pat to determine what are layers and steps.
We use board policy,
Yeah.
and so the board policy is pretty clear. Some of it will depend on whether they were distributing, whether they were using, those are all factors. But parents are always called whenever
Yes.
when that's involved. They're roped in, wrapped in, rather not roped in, sorry, wrapped in.
They're
And
enraptured.
there is a program that we partner with, over in Augusta through their Boys and Girls Club. And we will often send students over there as a way of giving them some education, some training. And if they participate in that, it can help maybe reduce their number of days that they're going to be suspended from school. So.
And is that, those programs that they have to go through mandatory for them to come back to school?
No, it's an opportunity for them to go in order to reduce the days that they're suspended. We do not have transportation to go over there, so the families have to provide that transportation. And so for the families that choose not to do that, we can't force them to take their child there. But most of them do. I would say the majority of our families do choose to participate.
School board has followed through.
They're very successful. So, yeah.
Emma, you were gonna say something?
Yes, I need to correct what I said earlier. The data point about risk of harm of marijuana is the single data point in this presentation that I don't have data on whether that's different from the state. So I actually can't say that to you with a straight face. It's a data fluke, and I wish I could, but I actually don't know whether that's significantly different from the state. We could probably dig, but it's not readily available to us.
Like every department in the CDC, we lost our MICE coordinator. So that's why it was, that's why it was delayed. And that's why we are having some issues with reports and, yeah.
Sage and then Molly?
So the whole culture thing, cigarettes have become less popular because there's more evidence behind health issues and kids can see it in their parents. So I wonder, do we have any data with vaping that significant health? Because I found that that's the most effective way in discouraging use is making them scared of it because it's scary.
Yes.
And a lot of kids don't like to
vaping only
think
came
about
about for, it's been 10 years.
Yeah.
So science is a little behind. Yeah. But it's already starting to show with mental health. It's already starting to show with if a youth is vaping a lot and they come down with a cold, can you imagine? So it's already starting to show up in emergency room data that the emergency rooms are seeing that kids are having more lung infections. They're actually seeing that because of the addiction to that high nicotine. So we haven't said this, but a nicotine pen, that one cartridge is a pack of cigarettes. It's a whole pack of cigarettes. And Hillary Wing is great about making sure all those middle school kids are aware of that. So it's going to be a while before we really see real adverse effects, and that's because we didn't see it in tobacco until the 70s either. Right. So unfortunately, it takes people being ill before something's done. I am glad that, state by state and kind of city by city, they're really taking on the flavored use. I think that will be key to making sure our next generation does not get addicted. Just to let you know, this is a playbook by the tobacco company, and they know that they have to have children addicted by the time they're 16 to have a customer base. That is their goal. So big marijuana has been bought by big tobacco. We're seeing that evidence very clear in Canada because they've been doing it now for 3 years, and it's eking across our country right now. So they are playing by that book as well. Get them addicted early, and so you have a customer base.
Absolutely. Molly?
I don't know if I have my thoughts collected completely, but we talked a few board meetings ago about the issues in bathrooms and the issues of smell on elementary age students. And so how much of this, and I know our data doesn't reach lower grades, but if our middle school students are already reporting 75% think it's not risky, or it's a result of culture in the home, how do we reach, you know, all of our parents, not just our middle school and high school parents, but just kind of send the district message of the risks?
I don't think it's fair to say the district. I think it's a community issue. And we have to
Absolutely.
look at it beyond. So to say that the district is gonna send a message on the risk, I don't know that that's what we should be doing. I think we need to be looking to our partners.
But I guess I'm suggesting we join the community. Our district can speak to our community. I mean, I don't think we just hide behind the community needs to be doing the messaging. Like,
I think we do that already in the buildings. I know when we have elementary students that will come to school with a very strong odor, conversations happen on a one-to-one basis. So I don't want it to appear that we're not doing anything. I just am saying that I don't think that it lies on the shoulders of the school district to be addressing and communicating to parents the risks. Can we partner? Sure, that's what we're doing. We are partnering with HCCA.
And one of the things
and
that we can
others.
do, we can open the conversation up to the PTOs and see if we can get some movement there. But one of the problems with funding, this is a problem with funding, is that they only fund 7th through 12th grade. The problems are already happening before we're able to, and, but we're working right now. We have one grant that will allow us to do some messaging to parents of younger children. We have real concerns at Head Start. Head Start's having some real problems, and so that's gonna follow them up to the elementary schools. So those new products will be shared with the elementary schools for new students. We're working on new student packets for all grade level so that parents know. But, you know, I haven't had a parent night since we had our last flight night. And we've asked high school parents to come, and they just don't come. So, like I said, I'm trying to do it the backdoor entry by being in the other organizations and getting the parents that way. And hopefully, some materials come through the sieve and make their way to the parents that really need to hear it.
You do also come to a lot of our parent events that we have in the evening and hand out materials.
Yeah, and they do this.
Starting as early as.
Right.
sixth
There
grade.
are a lot that just walk by, kind of put their hand up like not paying attention, but I was like.
I think sadly, we're experiential creatures.
Right.
And so until you have an accident, until you get an OUI, until someone you know dies in an accident, dies from an overdose, gets lung cancer, we're experiential creatures. If it doesn't brush me, it doesn't matter. And that's maybe a first half of life thing, but you get to a place hopefully in your life where you say, wait a minute, it matters. And then you start changing what you do. And we can't preach it. We can only present opportunities to be there because many people just think, it's not me, it's them. And that's an unfortunate thing. Yes, Emma.
Molly, I don't think this undermines your point at all, but that particular slide, the 75% is just the high schoolers. The middle school, it's about half the students who think there's slight
Still,
vertical
that's
risk.
okay.
It's
That's
still
big.
high.
Yeah.
It's not as high, if that adds anything to the conversation.
Yeah.
Did you have something?
No, thank you.
I will ask, I'm gonna start, but we have some legislation that's being looked at, and what I can do is be the educator around that legislature, so I will be sharing that with the administrators of the building. And they are, our main public health association is actually carved out a letter that all you have to do is copy and paste if you feel so moved. The medical marijuana legislation is being reworked, and it's gonna make it even easier if it passes. So we need to let our VLA, our Veterans and Legal Affairs Committee, know how we feel about that. So I can share that information.
Do you work with Mean School Management at all? So I'm on the legislative committee for the state school board, and we take positions on just about anything.
I'll send you that information.
Yeah, anything that has to do with kids or in education, we take.
Because that's the
Often we'll
big,
take positions.
the big P would be the way to address a lot of this.
Yeah.
Yes, we do want to look at the time. and
Yeah.
Still more things that we have
We
to
do, and I
discuss.
so appreciate you.
This was really great.
This was really great, and I apologize that we took so long to get here. And on the clock.
Oh, no.
It's always great to see how a school board meeting works. A lot of people don't spend a lot of time in them.
Thank you. And Emma, please say hi to Helen and your mom and dad.
I will.
Haven't seen Helen in 100 years. Thank you. All righty, we'll continue on. Let's see, the school calendar adjustment.
Yeah, let's talk school calendar for a while. So if we could start with the 23-24. And this year, so far, winter's not over.
I know, I
A
was
lot
gonna
can still
say,
happen.
it's
So we wanna
over,
be
come on.
careful. I don't wanna jinx anything. But so far, we've had one snow day and we've had 2 windstorm days, right? So we've missed school. We have 3 days that we have to make up. The current last day of school is June 7th. With 3 days, that would bring us to the 12th with the workshop day for the staff on the 13th. However, if you would remember, back in December, on the 21st, we had scheduled an early release day. We turned it into a full day. So because we turned it into a full day, that additional 3 hours, we can count it towards the makeup of a snow day. So I'm here wondering if you want to adjust the calendar to extend the time for early release days on March 14th by 1 hour and May 16th by 1 hour, in which you would have, rather than having high school, middle school dismissed at 11 and elementary dismissed at noon, you would have high school, middle school dismissed at noon and elementary dismissed at 1. By doing that on those 2 days, you make up 2 more hours. If we add that to the 3 hours from December 21st, that would allow us to make up a day. So if it's not settled yet, we could still have snow. We've had snow after April vacation, so they're still a long ways away. But if you did that, then we would only have 2 days to make up. Now, it would require that you take a motion as well to recommend a waiver to the Department of Education, which is also on the agenda. But they have approved those types of requests in the past, so I'm pretty optimistic that if you submitted a request for that waiver, that they would do so. So part one is the calendar adjustment, where we would take the 3 hours from the 21st of December, that we turn that into a full day, and then you take March 14th and May 16th, and you push the dismissal out by 1 hour across the board.
Would you like a motion?
I would.
I'll make that motion, and
I'll
Jim, you
second it.
can second that motion. We're doing math here. I love it.
Gardner math.
Gardner math. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Oh, sorry.
Have there been any questions or requests about April 8th, about the eclipse?
No.
Okay,
I haven't, I know that I have a few people
I've
who
just seen
requested
schools
some.
closing throughout the state. I just didn't know if it had been in any part of discussion at all.
No, I think there's schools up north, but I'm not sure if there are others. I haven't heard, no one's asked me.
Perfect.
I know
I just
we're
wanted to know if
planning
it
an event at the
exists.
middle school.
At the middle
Yeah, I would
school.
think
We're
not
planning an
close.
event
Let's
at the middle school after school. for
observe it.
kiddos,
That's
and
so
we're working right
cool.
now on procuring glasses for all of our kids, even if they can't stay for what the event we're gonna host for it. They'll still be able to take it home and participate in watching it from home safely. So I
Just
know
wanted to
we've
know
got
if
some
there was-
activities going there.
Awesome. Okay, so all those in favor of the calendar? Great, motion carries.
So part two is waiver request. Will the board, would they like to officially submit a waiver request to the Department of Education? Who would like to make, all right, moved by Alyssa, second by Jack. Questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor? Yep, great, perfect. Thank you. All right, then,
Part
we
three.
also have a copy.
So, sorry to close that one. So you still need to add 2 days to the calendar for the last day of school for this year, or no?
We don't have to add, we will adjust.
Okay, very good.
So
Thank you.
yes, as of, providing that the Department of Education
Right.
approves,
Yep,
and providing there are no more snow days or no more emergency days,
yeah,
then the last student day would be the 11th,
11th,
and the
yeah.
last staff day would be the 12th.
thank you.
But that may,
Depending on where we
Depending.
go. Yep, very good.
so
Thank you.
looking at next year, let's see, we've talked about this, right? We've talked about this on a number of occasions, and what we discussed, and I asked for your guidance before I went forward with this, because this is a substantial change from what we've done in the past. And you granted that we make some considerable modifications. And I've worked with the sending school districts to CATC, and they're all on board. Okay, so what you're looking at here in terms of significant changes is that students will not start next year. This is the proposal. They will not start school until after Labor Day. So we will have 3 workshop days at the end of August for staff. Now, this has been shared with staff. I do it through the association. Some mixed results. Some people really like the idea, some do not. So, but here we are, I have complete agreement, 100% agreement with all of the CATC schools. Then I've sprinkled in some early release days. I've sprinkled them in. Now, early release days, if you look at your calendar, I would like for you to remove one of them. I have one down here on May 7th. We are going to remove that one. There's also been a lot of conversation and feedback about the number of early release days that we have in here and where they're located. And there's been mixed feelings about it. In this proposed calendar, there are a couple additional early release days. We began having that conversation with our association because staff are feeling really stressed and overwhelmed with all of the work that needs to be done. And so we thought building in a couple additional early release days would help. Staff have mixed feelings about it. We have some that, again, are against it, others who like the idea. There's concern and talk about the impact it has on families. Of course, an early release day does impact families, and we want to be mindful of that. So if you look at what you have in front of you, September, we do have a new early release day that we haven't had in this past year or in previous years. And that day is a Wednesday. A lot of our early release days are not typically Wednesdays. And so why do we have some Wednesdays, some Thursdays, some Friday? Well, I'm attempting to coordinate my early release days with the other sending schools to CATC. Our high school students go to CATC in the afternoon. And so if we don't coordinate to some degree our early release days, it impacts our students going to CATC. In Augusta and some of the other school districts, they have all of their early release days on Wednesday. So I've chosen a few Wednesdays here in a very strategic way to help align those early releases with some of the other sending schools. All right, so that's why there are some on Wednesday. For us, Thursday works better. Our preferred day is Thursday because there's only one more day for staff to go to school after Thursday. It has historically worked better for us. And oftentimes, as you will see in October, we often will abut a workshop day with an early release day beforehand. And the reason that we do that is that gives us a day and a half for staff members to work on professional development. So with this calendar, the last student day is June 12th. Graduation is the 14th. That gives us one day that week for a snow day. And I know. And then it would take us into the next week. And we talked about that. The fact that the next week is Juneteenth, there could be a cost associated with it. But we also talked about using more remote days. We were prepared to do that this year. We sent packets home, but then we didn't have to take a full day. It didn't happen. So we prepared for it and then it didn't materialize. So I feel like we have the system in place that we can revisit that next year, revitalize it, and we can absolutely use that as one way of hopefully limiting the number of snow days that we have in the future. So what have I missed, administrators? Did I miss any talking points? No?
I can't think of anything you missed from earlier. Yeah.
So this is the proposed calendar.
Questions?
Say a lot of thought has gone into it, a lot of time. It's new, it's different. And if we find that it doesn't work this next year, of course, we can step back the following year and revisit it. But I'm hoping by front loading some of the workshop days, we will find that it'll be so much easier for staff to begin the school year with less stress. We have more IEP meetings that they have to engage in, the professional development plus classroom preparation. I'm really hopeful that the 3 days will work. And we talked about the weather. Historically, June has been a little bit colder, so if we have to get out a little bit later, and it has been warmer the end of August, beginning of September. So hopefully if we start a little bit later, maybe we're not looking at early release days for weather, heat.
Perfect. I will stop talking. Motion to approve the calendar.
Second.
All those in favor? And it's not gonna snow in June.
We hope not.
It hasn't snowed yet, so you know, it's
Great, thank you.
perfect. All righty. Old business is none. Board chair report. Okay, I have a brief. You all have in your packet a copy of our policy B BBDA.
It should be in your folder.
Yes.
And I'd like you just to glance at it. And let your eyes fall on F, please. This is not intended as a lecture in any way. But board attendance is sometimes an issue. And how our attendance is managed is very important by policy. So during our board training, we address attendance and the importance of our attendance, and we stress that during our board training. When an absence is necessary according to policy, which you have here, it's necessary to contact me or the vice chair, and we will determine whether it's excused or not. This is in no way a power play. It is actually sort of rested in statute, Title 28, 1245. So it's not an issue for Tony and me to be powerful over anybody. It's more about that we've taken an oath to the legislature to do this work. And it's a group sport. And we're responsible for nearly a $32 million budget. And we're responsible to families and to students and to taxpayers to be well informed about every aspect of our budget, to be well informed about all the policies, our curriculum, all the work. We're responsible for that. And the only way we can do that work in an informed way is to participate. So Diane, I'm glad you brought up what you did about finance tonight, because it's important. These are huge decisions that affect not just our students, our staff, but our community members, our families. And we need to participate. And we're under the gun about some very specific things, but aside from those very specific things, we're in charge of the money, we're in charge of the property, we're in charge of supporting the superintendent and student behaviors to a degree to where we expel students. So it's important. We need to be here. If you look at F, it's pretty specific about what constitutes an excused absence. We have put absences on the, in the minutes before. Going forward, we're going to put excused or unexcused absences as well. Because that's also in policy. How many times you can be unexcused before it becomes an opportunity to dismiss a board member. I don't want to do that. I really don't. And 9/10 of everyone here does it right. But when it's not right, done right, it's not done right. So leaving a message on the phone for Martha, emailing Martha is not letting us know. I need to know. Tony needs to know. Pat is not our messenger. Martha is not our messenger. So if you're going to be absent, I need to know so I can let Pat know. Because when we don't have a quorum on a committee level, that disrupts everybody's time. It just does. And again, we're responsible. We promised. We promised our communities that we would do this and we would take this work seriously. So, is there anyone here that doesn't know how to reach me? You do too. Is there anyone here that doesn't know how to reach Tony? Then I respectfully ask, don't ever leave messages for Martha again, and don't send an email to Martha about not being at a board meeting. I need to know. Matt, you are faithful. I always know where you are, and I appreciate that. So many of you, whenever you, Megan, Jack, I mean, I hear from you guys a lot. So this is not meant to spank anybody. It's really that we have a lot of really urgent work that needs to get done. And we need you here. If you don't want to be here, open the seat up for somebody else who does. But please communicate, okay? Questions?
Just a clarification. So when you do committee meetings, you're asking for the two of you as well as the chair, I assume?
Absolutely.
Yeah, just to clarify
Because when
that.
there's a curriculum meeting, for instance, and none of this, I mean, you've
Yeah.
communicated great. This is
No,
not-
I just want to be clear for folks.
But when we have
Yeah,
like curriculum and we have staff that stay
right,
and they come and they have a presentation that they've worked on, and then there's
two
not a,
people.
yeah, there's not a quorum, that's
Right.
it's disrespectful. And that they should feel insulted by that. Because we have a job to do. And these people are doing graciously and they're doing really hard work.
Right.
And our behavior falls on us.
And I
Yes,
think it pulls us down too.
Yeah.
Not to act like goody two shoes, but I've been to someone, other people haven't been there. Or either they couldn't have and sometimes they couldn't have a vote. And it's kind of like, what is this? Because we were elected by the people.
right. We represent the students and we want to be responsive to the community and to their families. So, I mean, it's a group effort and we all need to be here. So that's,
Thank you.
sure,
Yeah.
that ends my course correction. Okay, then mine.
You
We've already talked about Maine Cabin Masters, Mayor, that was Monday night. I hope you all had a
I
chance
made
to
30
see
seconds
it.
on the thing. I was like, ooh, I watched the
Yeah,
whole
I
show
saw
for that.
It was great. It was
Yeah.
really great. So if
Pretty
you
good.
haven't seen it, hopefully on YouTube or something like that, because I know not everyone gets the Magnolia Network. It's definitely worth checking out. I wanted to let you know, kind of as I think this is my last really official responsibility as president for Maine Superintendent's Association, that I need to attend an officers meeting in New Orleans, May 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. It's paid for by the association, but it means that I won't be here at your May board meeting. Instead, we will look to Angela to fill in for me, okay? So she'll be in this seat. And I also wanted to make sure that I publicly announced that our school resource officer has been pulled back by the Gardner Police Department. They are experiencing a shortage of personnel, so therefore they have taken their school resource officer out of our schools and put him back on patrol. So we are without, and I don't know how long that will be, could be the entire year, I'm not sure. It's definitely
unfortunate.
disappointing. This, we have them, we don't have them, we have them, we don't have them. It's really hard. And the person that we had, Scott, has been with us long enough that he's really starting to develop some strong positive relationships with our students. And so hopefully he will be back in the near future so that he can continue developing those relationships. So, and if you didn't write it down on your calendar, April 4th at 5 p.m. your next school board meeting, so that we can go to drama at 7 o'clock. And tell me again the name of it?
The Princess Bride.
Princess Bride.
Princess Bride. And I'll send a reminder for tickets to everybody too.
I'm so disappointed. It's one of my favorite movies. We have a Siamese cat that we named Calvin Carmichael Montoya.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that's who he is. But anyway, and I won't be here for that meeting. I'll be in New Orleans as I serve on the National School Board as an Eastern Region Director. So I'll be in New Orleans.
So Tony will be
So
serving.
Tony will be the chair of the meeting on,
I have to
On that day.
shepherd everyone out of here in time.
Yeah.
you do,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna try and watch, because I love that we live stream. I've been able to do that when I've been sick, so
Great.
we're all done.
Well, no, we
Except,
have an
well,
executive
we're all done to
session.
them.
Okay.
And I appreciate you all being here because it's almost bedtime. Uh-huh.
It is bedtime.
It is
My
bedtime.
bedtime.
It is bedtime.
I'm in bed by now, most
Right,
times.
bedtime was an hour ago, so sorry. But thank you so much for being here and for all you do.
So we need a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second, all those in favor? Are we gonna make a decision when we come out?
Yes.
Okay, Terry?
Thank you.
Was that unanimous?
Yeah.
You too. See you.
Yeah, right.
But if you don't know.
Thanks, Sam.
So who's got room in their bag for me to go to New Orleans?
accept the, what,
Yeah.
Now it's great.
Now it's great.
praise be. I move that we accept the food services contract as was described to us in executive session.
Second.
Second by Tony. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you, Jim, for making that last motion. We're done.
We're adjourned.
Miss you too. I'm gonna come.